we're live on our site, we can start.
We're good? All righty. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank all council members, community board chairpersons, and Borough Hall staff for on the Zoom call today. This evening, the board will receive an introduction to the New York City Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, my former colleague and good friend, Commissioner Ydanis Rodriguez. Following Commissioner Rodriguez, the board will then be introduced to the New York City Director of the Department of City Planning, Dan Garodnick. Wow, this is like a full circle because all of them were former city council members. So glad to work with both of them and have intricate history in both being the zoning chairman, working with Dan Garodnick, and of course being the public safety chairman, working with Councilmember Rodriguez to make our city safer and our streets safer, and obviously with Commissioner Garodnick to work on housing and other issues. Commissioner Rodriguez previously served in the New York City Council representing the 10th District. He became a member of the Council Members Transportation Committee, which he chaired from 2014. Whoa, I'm showing my age, from 2014 to 2021. Along with the leadership of Mayor Adams, Commissioner Rodriguez expressed that he will work with the people of New York City and DOT to make the city the most walkable and bikeable city in the nation. And I really do believe in Commissioner Rodriguez, I have to say that. This evening, Mr. Rodriguez will provide an introduction and expand on some background on his history in New York City transportation, which is fairly new. But following this, he will provide us with an update on the agency's priorities in Queens. And I want to congratulate my good friend who's already off to a good start. Obviously, there are really a lot of challenges around the city, but I do believe Commissioner Rodriguez shares our vision in prioritizing out of borough communities, although he is technically from Manhattan, but he's from a different part of Manhattan. And so I am very thankful for him joining us, and I'm thankful for him having his seatbelt on as he zooms from his vehicle, just as we all do in times of motion. So thank you for joining us, Commissioner Rodriguez. Our community boards and council members are intrigued in you having here. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions tonight. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for your friendship. And it's great to see you once again ascend to the position of Transportation Commissioner, because I know you're someone who shares the goal of ensuring that every part of our borough, every part of our city is safe, walkable, as I mentioned before, pedestrian safe, and also improved transportation, especially for transportation deserts. So thank you for joining us. And I will say this, when I ran, both Commissioner Rodriguez and I ran for Speaker of the City Council, we obviously didn't win, but we won. But I will say that the First Lady of Queens is one of your biggest fans. Matter of fact, one time I said, you like his commercial more than mine? I got a little jealous. I'm like, she loves your story. So it's great to see you here. Great to have you as a partner in the city agency. Jason, no worries. We're not gonna pounce on him for that reason, but just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your friendship and partnership already. A lot of work to be done. So with that, we'll kick it off to DOT Commissioner Ydanis Rodriguez.
Thank you, gracias a mi hermano Donovan Richard. Thank you to my brother, the great borough president, Donovan Richard. He said, we know each other for the 12 years that I served, as at the council, from 2009 to 2013. He was working as a staff together with Councilmember Leroy. And we worked together at that time. And as I had the opportunity also to serve those 12 years and be able to see not only the job that now the borough president is doing in Queens, but also, as a chairman of the Public Safety Committee, I can tell you that sometimes we take things for granted. But someone that has seen the different approach on public safety, I got to say that the work that you did as leading that important committee, allow to see necessary changes and reform that we needed in order to see better relationship between the police and the community. And I think that it planted the seed for what we know we will see in the city of New York, a city where our community will continue seeing the men and women in blue, as someone that we rely on when it comes to our safety, but also being able to see how a different approach where the men and women in blue at the NYPD now is also looking at our community, also our partners, not our enemy. Not to look at our people because of the color of the skin or the way our youth dress, but see our people, especially our youth, with the respect that they deserve. I think that had a lot to do with all those changes that we were able to see happening under your leadership, also leading the public safety committee. So, beside the work that I know that you will do in Queens as a board president, I also want to say thank you because as someone that had dedicated my life also working with the citywide coalition to improve the relationship between the police and the community, I know that all the contribution you made. Look, I'm the first not only Latino DOT commissioner, but I always told my great team at DOT that I'm the working class community, the working class commissioner. You know, I came here at the age of 18 to make work in a food and in a food industry, washing dishes, making sandwich in the same building that now I lead the agency that we have 6,000 men and women at DOT responsible to maintain 7,700 bridges and tunnel, taking care of the roadway and the sidewalk and bike lane, bus lane. So I feel that as a person of faith, we have to thank God for the opportunity that now we all have to serve our city. I'm proud to be working alongside many local elected officials and community leaders in Queens to make sure that we improve the safety of our street while prioritizing equity in transportation. Under Mayor Eric Allen, we have a mandate, which is to be sure that we invest in across all five boroughs, across all community, to be sure that pedestrians and cyclists are safe. We will see more investments not only in the traditional downtown Manhattan, Long Island City, or downtown Brooklyn, but also we will see more attention given to all the need that we have in different intersections to be sure that our streets are safe. The pandemic has, impacted the life of every single New Yorkers, and we are currently, experiencing a nation wave of traffic fatalities, caused not by those drivers that respect our speed limit, but most of the pedestrians and cyclists that are losing their lives today are the result of crashes that involving reckless and dangerous driving, who are not the majority. So speeding and drunk driving have been a main cause of crashes in our city, especially after the COVID. However, we are committed to reversing this rise. Working with our mayor, we have pledged to redesign 1,000 intersections. Many of those intersections will be redesigned across the five boroughs, especially in area that have not received the attention that we have seen in the past. Of course, average New Yorkers want for DOT to take care of our potholes. That's something that is important, and we will continue. Again, you will see more men and women from DOT across all community board taking care or resurfacing the street and also taking care of the pothole that we have. We are actively in conversation with local elected officials and residents to make sure that we're taking everything into account. We know that we New York City that is made by 8.6 million New Yorkers. We have different needs in different community. And one of my commitments is to hear the voices of different community because everyone has different needs. I'm also proud to say that DOT is leading the largest open restaurant program in the country. We have 12,000 restaurants. We have saved 100,000 jobs. And we hope that the open restaurant will be something that will stay in New York City, knowing also that we have to take care of the quality of life issues that also involve some of those open restaurants. Eh, I feel that in the new administration, the voice of everyone across all community board will be heard and will have a space to be part of this conversation. This year, I'm also inviting everyone across all community board, all boroughs to be part of the Car-Free Earth Day, which we'll be celebrating on Saturday, April 23rd, where we are closing a number of streets and dedicating those streets for pedestrians, cyclists, for more activities related to recreational, educational in our community. We will have over 150 partners, including many agencies that will be participating across 9 locations throughout the 5 boroughs. And I wanted to leave it here in case that there's any question. But in summary, DOT is responsible to run the largest transportation system in the whole nation. We have partnership with all borough presidents, including my friend Donovan and the other 4 borough presidents. And we are looking to continue working with close with you to be sure that we do the necessary investments to improve the safety for pedestrians and cyclists across the 5 boroughs.
Thank you, Commissioner. And before we jump into questions, and obviously please use the raise hand function if you have questions, and I'm sure many of our community boards have questions. Just wanted to jump into few questions on open streets. So let me start there. So open streets should be something that all 14 community boards can hang their hat on. And I wanted to just hear a little bit about you, a little bit from you on your vision to ensuring that all 14 community boards have access to open streets. I look at this as an equity issue and want to just hear on how DOT is prioritizing open streets. And I am happy to say that I saw, for instance, in Southeast Queens, I believe the Adelaide's Park area approved for an open streets program. But just want to hear a little bit more about your vision on how open streets will expand or expand to all parts of the borough, and how are you envisioning using this program to negate some of the issues we have around lack of park space in parts of the borough. So if you can just speak to how what you're looking at and how you're prioritizing open streets in the borough.
Yeah, I definitely with equity is an important aspect on how we see everything that we're doing. Open street, as you know, that in our previous role that both of us play as a council member, we always wanted to talk about, with the previous administration, as we had a lot of conversation at the council on what reimagining the use of sidewalk and the street. So Kobe, again, put more pressure and it allowed for the city of New York to move ahead with one of the most important initiatives that allowed for us to put together the temporary open program. So I think that this is going to be about, what we want to work with the local voices. We want to work with you as a leader in the borough, but also working with everyone across all community board and all the elected officials to come to us and let us know where do we want to see those initiatives happening. The opportunities is here. It's a simple process to get it done, but we want to see this program led by the voices and the interests of the local community and especially their leaders. And of course, Nicole and Jason, they also here want to acknowledge them also as a borough commissioner. And I also want for the rest of the participants in this borough in this borough board meeting to know that you've been working close with both of them So for this and other discussion that we have, they are the great representative that we have at DOT in Queens.
Thank you for that. And I'm sure we'll have requesting from different community boards. Can you speak to how closely you're working with the MTA on the revised bus plan and how is DOT, what role DOT is playing in the Queens revised MTA's bus plan? And how can we work together more cohesively to make sure, even though I do believe the new plan certainly took into account many of the concerns Queens residents have had, but that many parts of Queens are transportation deserts. So I just want to hear a little bit more about advocacy on the part of the Department of Transportation and how you're working cohesively with the MTA on this specific plan. And of course, it's good to see you in Jamaica a few weeks ago to announce the revised plan, which I think is a step in the right direction. You're muted.
Yeah, so our buses is one of those represent one of those areas where DOT work closer with the MTA because we share responsibility. The MTA run the bus services, but DOT is the one that build the infrastructure. That plan with the franchise, JCB Cove, the bus shelters. And so the way of how we coordinate is by having a team from DOT and the MTA having like monthly planning meeting with a revised plan. Again, as you say, that we had the honor to, I had the honor to be with you at the press conference with with Yano, the chairman of the MTA. It's like the way of how we want to keep moving forward. It's about to look at different initiatives that we have to take to bring more bus lane where are needed, to plan in a way that we run buses more efficient and safer. I was in the districts of the chairman, the new chairman of our committee, the Committee of Transportation, Brooks Power. And from her district to 67 and 3rd Avenue, when I was there, it took me almost 3 hours. So I know that you brought to the attention of the council many times when you serve at the council, and now you have also been speaking loud and clear, to the MTA and to us, the reality that sometimes it take longer for someone to come from some places in Queens to Manhattan than going from the JFK to Florida. And this is something that we cannot continue just, saying and celebrating. I know that what we want is to be sure that during the time that we will be serving in different capacity, that we see our buses, running faster and safer. And this is what I feel this revised plan is intended to do, is to look at those areas of transportation district that we have in Queens. Also, we will look at the Bronx in Brooklyn, Staten Island, other places, and bring a plan to add more buses, but also to have more SBS, to add more BRT, to be sure that our brothers and sisters who had to work like an hour and a half, who had to travel like an hour and a half to go to work, can make it like in half of that time. So yes, like the interest of Queens will be very important for me as I continue planning with you and the rest of the leadership here at DOT and at the MTA too.
And I'm going to get the questions, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I said that we didn't need overwhelming support in terms of dollars, because, I could give rhetoric, but, in Queens, we like to see the money. We got a term that says Queens get the money. So we need to see the money to expound on many of the things you're talking about, including repaving of our streets, including open streets. I know we're going to have the open restaurants questions that you'll probably get some questions on tonight, but just want to make sure that Queens is really getting the money And you know, I'm looking to see how these borough breakdowns look like as we move forward. So I don't want to belabor these points because I want to get the questions, and you know, we believe in democracy in Queens, so I don't want to hog all of the minutes. So I'm going to go to Chair Dolores Orr, followed by Dolores Frank Taylor, and then CB6 Chair Heather. So Dolores, please ask your question. And unmute yourself. CB14, Dolores, you still here?
I'm here,
Right,
sorry. I had to wait for the red light to touch my, can you hear me?
Make sure you pulling over because we don't want to read about you in the
Yeah,
paper.
no. I
All
was
right.
at a red light and I was able to unmute. So,
All right.
Commissioner, thank you so much for coming to Queens, speaking with Queens. We have many issues as you identified, and I appreciate your attention to our borough. In the budget, Queens gets the short end of the stick every time. Per capita, we have less funding for all the agencies than any other borough in the city of New York. So we never get our fair share. So two quick things for our Community Board 14, which is the Rockaways and Broad Channel. We have a bus lane that runs 24/7. It's on Rockaway Beach Boulevard from Beach 73rd Street to Beach 62nd Street. And it is in effect 24 hours a day. The bus does not run 24 hours a day. So I don't understand why we have 24 hours a day. And DOT has indicated on numerous inquiries we made to them is that it's in place for a traffic calming measure. The MTA does not support any bus lane that's there for traffic calming. They only want bus lanes for operational buses and to expedite buses. Can you help us with that?
More than happy to follow with you. And as I said, the Borough Commissioner Nicole is there, Nicole Garcia is there. So let's follow. Let's be sure that with the Borough President, you and Nicole, we follow and see whatever we can do to be helpful. Look, I haven't spent my whole life fighting for equity. Like I always say that, even though, I'm from Manhattan, but I'm from the northern Manhattan. And even in my borough, we have seen how Harlem, El Barrio, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill, it has been always fighting for decades to be sure that we get a fair share investment, across the board. So having that experience, I know that is, how it's not maintaining the work on how things been doing it, but it's about using the position, in this case as a commissioner right now, to follow on Mayor Eric Adams' mission, which is about addressing equity, bringing a fair share of investment. So in my little corners at the 9th floor where we are at 55 Water Street, you had a commissioner that will be working, supporting my borough commissioner and working with the borough president, Donovan, to be sure that we pay attention to that particular need and to be sure that also Queens will get a fair share of investment when it came to take care of the roadway, the sidewalk, the repaving, and also intersection, so that we know that across the five borough, everyone will be able to see that, they more attention given to Queens than ever.
Thank you for that. And my second concern is we have a section of roadway from Beach 62nd Street to it'll be Beach 56th Street, where we have major development going on, and that section of the roadway has not been funded for expansion to correspond with the streets on either side of it. And
we're working with Commissioner Rodriguez on that, so I want to cut into that. So that's from 32nd to 56, and then obviously, and that's a $40 million ask, and obviously we're working with the commissioner.
No. It's from Borough President, I'm sorry. It's from 56th Street to 62nd Street. That part
It's
of
for
it,
Auburn East?
no, everything east and west of.
Okay, got it, right, okay. So,
So,
I would start from
6th
an
Street
east toward
east.
this area already, from 32nd at least to 56th for Rockaway Beach Boulevard. And we'll continue to work with him on that specific aspect. I do gotta move on because I gotta get
All right, but it's
Chair
56.
Garodnick on. So
I
if y'all
just
can
want-
ask your questions precise, one question, and then we're gonna move on, because Dan has to be somewhere else. And
Okay,
wanna
but
make
I
sure we
just
get
need
it.
to, I just need to clarify that it's 56th Street to 62nd Street is the
Okay.
area I'm talking about.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna go to Frank Taylor, CB 3. And if you can just ask your questions precise so we can get to Chair Garodnick.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the president of the borough for having these meetings. And Commissioner Rodriguez, I haven't seen you since we stood on the steps of City Hall with my other good friend, Councilman Cabrera, who's now also a commissioner, that stood with us during the air training. My heart is beating well because I see you there in charge. I'm relieved actually to see you in charge. I just wanted to say that. I'm sorry, President, take the time. My questions are simply, over here in East Elmhurst, North Corona, and Jackson Heights, they've taken out bus stops on Northern Boulevard, 22 bus stops. They've also put the 34th Street open streets. There's nothing in writing for this. There's nothing, to talk about because there's nothing in writing. But the traffic patterns, are we going to a stage where we're going to actually look for these traffic surveys, environmental studies, the outreach? I mean, it's so sketchy. What are we, actually doing? And I'm sorry, the third part of that problem is the food sheds. They took down a bunch of them from Diversity Plaza, DOT, but there's a bunch of them, Roosevelt, 37th. They're not using them for food. People are sleeping in them. They're storing their bikes, traffic, whatever they're doing in there. They're dirty, they're filthy. And DOT now has all these. So we need help. And that's my questions. I'm sorry, I couldn't be more precise.
All right.
Thank you for the question. And they have been in a survey study going on. You will hear from our team at Queens very soon, on the result of the study that being conducted. So, I will follow, especially with the team here at DOT. They will be following with you guys, and especially with the borough president on the result of the survey and the study that being conducted.
Thank you. And like I said again, it's great to see you.
Frank, if you can get those locations to us, because we are setting up a task force, more for Corona Plaza. But perhaps you can get us, I know where Diversity Plaza is, but just please follow up with the staff on that, all right?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Heather, and then Jean.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Commissioner, for making time to be here tonight. I am from the District of Regal Park, Fort Hills. Thank you so much. I saw you last summer when we were opening up the extension to the bike lane, so thank you for that. My question centers around that tonight, wondering, because we know that the Queens Boulevard Capital Plan has been delayed because of the pandemic, would like to know sort of where that is at and where that is headed, and kind of an update on that would be helpful. We're happy to see that we're going to be getting better protection on our bike lanes from Yellowstone on down towards Jamaica. But what we would also like to see is those same protections put in from Elliott on down to Yellowstone, because that section of the corridor is actually more precarious for people. It is more trafficked, and it is actually more dangerous there for cyclists. So thinking about this in regards to the capital plan is really helpful, because it's all part of one whole wonderful solution. So we'd just love to know, sort of get an update on that. Thank you so much.
Capital plan.
The focus speak to that.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if the commissioner. Unmute, Commissioner.
sorry, the capital plan is moving forward. Let me check with our team or all the more details information. And again, we will share it back with you guys and especially with the borough president. When it comes to protected bike lane, that's a mission that we have under this leadership of Mayor Eric Allen. Like we committed to replace some of those plastic protected bike lane for more solid one, and we are moving forward with that goal, and we committed to do it. And that's what the cyclist community will keep seeing across the 5 boroughs, to see a replacement of the plastic one for a more solid one.
And we are, just to add to that, Heather, we are, my office is looking at investing at least $1 million. There's at least, I don't know if Nicole, if I'm misspeaking, but there are about 3 phases that they're looking for assistance with. So we're going to fund, at least temporarily, the first phase of that. And then, we're working with DOT on both 2 and 3. So I don't know if Nicole wants to speak to that, Commissioner, Queens Commissioner Garcia.
Yeah, sure. So the capital project, rebuilding those medians, making it almost like a linear park, with kind of the engineering and the design and the infrastructure investment, to make cycling safe, but also rebuilding that roadway from curb to curb. Obviously, when we were planning this in capital phases, it was split up into 3 construction phases. Getting the first one done, it's almost like a series of dominoes. So we're very grateful to the borough president for being interested in investing $1 million. That will go a long way for getting shovels in the ground. And again, it's like a domino effect that will cascade all of the capital work all the way up to the front doorstep of Borough Hall. So we're incredibly grateful for that funding, Borough President, and thank you, Community Board 6, for always being a partner in bicycle and pedestrian safety.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to Gene now.
Thank you, Mr. BP. Appreciate it very much. One commissioner, I'm the chair of Board 7. I'm sorry, I would have been at your walkthrough with the councilwoman in Flushing. I just didn't know about it, but I saw she got some key points in Flushing with our bus problems and our movement of people. So I thank you for coming into part of my district at that time for one of the largest boards in the city of New York. Just 3 fair statements. One, I heard what you said about the buses. I'm a little concerned about the MTA. I know city DOT is city DOT, but we fall under the MTA. And I'm reading an article from February 22nd, which says 3 out of 10 city buses people don't pay. And we're losing $56 million in that system because people don't pay. Not blaming you. I just want to tell you, I do watch what buses are. We want to give the service to our people because Queens is a big borough that uses mostly buses. We have subway systems, but mostly buses. And I appreciate you wanting to help get the bus system working, but I'm worried on how MTA is making sure that we don't lose revenue every time we give them money, Commissioner. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Second thing is, we're getting stuff from your planning unit, and I have one problem on 149th Street in Flushing Whitestone, which is a school project. My board had a transportation committee on it because that's how we do things, Commissioner. We always do a committee, try to get everybody on. We tabled it. I had a letter from DOT stating that there was no movement on this, that back in August of last year. And now all of a sudden I got a letter saying they're putting everything in. And if it isn't for the councilwoman that's taking care of this for me, Councilwoman Palladino, she just had a meeting with them. I'm very upset with DOT, how they work behind the community board's issue. I did not get notified. I got a letter from Commissioner Nicole and Garcia, and she's always very good with me, but give me the letter, 2 days, and then we milled the roads and stuff is unacceptable to me, Commissioner. I really don't like that. I'm 38 years as a chair. I don't think that's the way you go. We always do commissioners. If it wasn't for my councilwoman for that area, she is now making sure that DOT talks to us. And just for the third thing, I have my other council person, because I have 4 of them in Queens, by my area, is Councilman Moyer, is we're having a problem over in Willets Point. The commissioner for Queens knows about the issue. They put $7 million. They did a great job. We just need more help over in that area. I'm trying to get a task force together. I'm glad that Councilman Moyer is on this. I want to call his office and talk to him. But just so you know, I work with DOT on a lot of your projects. You're really at the top of our list. Thank you very much for spending the time with us, and I'll shut up after this. I apologize for taking so long.
Yeah. So thank you, and probably my team from the Queens Borough, Nicole, the rest of the team, they also can add any all the details. But what I can say that, you know, when we are not perfect, so when there's any moment that we can do better, we definitely need to look at it to improve it. But we value the contribution of all members of community board. You know that this is one of those areas where people, many of you, have dedicated decades serving, being the voice of the community that you live in, and no one know better our communities than the community board members. So we do look to get you input, the participation community board, and all I can say is, you know, when there's any moment that we are not doing the best job communicating, bring it to our attention. We are more than happy to correct it. But I don't know, Nicole, if you also like to add anything else.
Yeah, sure. So, and Al Silvestri, my other deputy. So I do know that we had a meeting, a briefing with Councilmember Palladino. Nice to see you. And Jean, we will be doing an on-site with the council member and also your leadership team to discuss that bicycle safety project.
Thank you, Commissioner. As I said, I work very well with the Queens Commissioner. She's very nice and she's very patient with me. I have to tell you, she does give me a lot of, really, she's been very good to me, as she lets me yell and scream for about 10 minutes and then we sit down and we talk. So you're very good with the Commissioner for Queens. She's excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And Jean, I count myself in that circle too.
Thank
All right,
you.
we're going to go
Mr.
to.
BP. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to go to Maury quick for a quick question. Then we got to get to Dan Garodnick because he has a hard stop. So let's go to Maury quick. Be precise.
All right, I'll try to be really quick. So a couple of things. First and foremost, I have to congratulate you on the position and thank you for all you're doing for transportation throughout the city. In terms of all modes of transportation. One thing I wanted to bring up that our Transportation Committee folks wanted me to be sure to address is the Queens Borough Bridge and the issue, especially this week with shutting down all traffic at times for pedestrians and bikes. It's such a major mode of transportation for folks in Western Queens and Eastern Queens that, you know, using the new bike boulevards, then they're just completely not able to get across. And especially with the work that is being done on the bridge, more people are maybe not going to be driving. So they need even more now than ever to be able to get across and slowing down the whole, you know, protected outer bridge, outer lanes. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. Definitely, and of course, like as I said before, so Nicole, if you also want to add anything else, you feel free to do after I finish. Look, I think that we are doing the best we can, knowing that there's work that has to be done in our bridges, but also knowing that for me, I always been committed. As you know, I've been supporting bike lane across the 5 boroughs, especially in the district that I in. Even though, you know, like that was not popular in the district that I used to represent. So for me to be there, stand up for, you know, our cyclist community, it's important for me. I think that sometimes there's work that has to be done for the maintenance of our bridges, and that also, you know, sometimes it's not an easy way of how we go through things. But we're doing the best we can. But let me pass it to Nicole so that also she can add more details.
Okay, that's great. And then the other thing I would just say really quickly is we really need more city bikes in areas where we need bike shares in areas that aren't already connected with lots of transportation, especially in central Queens, eastern Queens, folks that really need it, folks that are, working class and might not have other options, but would really like to. So we really need to expand city bikes in those other areas more so. And then finally, we've had a lot of people interested in going more electric, and there's just not enough options for electric chargers and things like that. So we would love to see more electric charging, and especially like municipal parking lots, like under the 7 train. It would be awesome if that could be all throughout there.
That's
Let
the
me
goal.
add on that, Maury. I had legislation on that, which Vicky and many of the council members on this line should probably follow up on, mandating more EV capacity on city-owned lots, especially since it's in our control, but not saying private operators shouldn't look to this as well, especially as the Biden administration looks at changing some of their policies around phasing out cars that rely on gas. So in light of what we're seeing in Russia and our reliability on gas, especially, it is my hope that DOT and many private operators. I remember a time where UPS came to me as the environmental protection chair when I chaired that committee, saying they would love for their entire fleet to go electric, but there just is not enough infrastructure in place to even allow that to happen in the city. So I'm hoping DOT, as you said, will really build out that infrastructure. And the council should certainly look at those bills. There's a package of bills on EVs. So whoever's on this line who gets to it first, obviously will get it. But we should certainly look to those bills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be doing a tour, walk through the bridge very soon. I want to see that, the condition there. But again, I know first of all, I wanted to see if Nicole wanted to say anything else, but I also know that, as the board president said, that he's also, we have a time schedule right now because also the other great friend, Dan Garodnick, also have a role to play in today's meeting, invited by the board president. But, we're doing the best we can. I'm ready to do my walk through the bridge and listening to you guys, even though I also recognize that the borough of Queens is one of those boroughs where we also have different needs. I may be proponent for more bus lane, bike lane, but I also know that there's some area where we have transportation deserts that we also have to deal with, address unique need of different area in the borough. But when it comes to, being sure that we support and expand the cyclist community and bring more bike lane, I will be continue working with my colleagues here at DOT to be sure that it continue moving forward, as also coordinated with the borough president and the rest of the team there in Queens.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Maury, that the intermittent 15-minute closures that happened on Friday, as the commissioner said, there's always room for improvement. And we heard loud and clear, particularly from CB2, that we need to do a better job of communicating. As the commissioner said, there is work that needs to be done on the bridge, very important work, but there's obviously a better way that we can either plan or communicate with both you and your constituents, and also elected officials, and also riders and pedestrians. So there's more to come on that.
Especially since we put a lot of money into that bridge too. So I just wanted to add that. And taxpayers, I'm hoping that you're not going to come to us with inflation because of the delays, and any incurring costs DOT will pick up.
We don't plan on it. We don't plan on it.
Let's not all speak at once. Okay. We don't plan on it. But whatever incurring costs come on that bridge, I know you're picking up. Okay. All righty. All right. Thank you all. All right. We're now going to move on now to, okay, Vicky has a question. Can you make it quick? Because I got to get to Chair Garodnick. Vicky.
Yes, I got to unmute myself, believe it or not. Anyway, I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to meet you, Commissioner Rodriguez. I'm Vicky Palladino, City Council member from District 19. You just heard from Jean, who's CB7, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I'd like to see you come this way. Northeast Queens needs you. There's lots of, I saw you at Sandra Ung's district, which is just a stone's throw from me. So I'd like to make an appointment with you. Come over. Let's take a walk around and let's see what we're talking about. And Nicole, thank you so much. I appreciate all your help today on our meeting with the DOT. Look forward to a great future. And Borough President, once again, thumbs up. Did good. Very good.
Thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's what you call a call out, Ydanis. So you better get to her district. Next time it ain't going to be so pretty if you don't.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Remember, it's a pleasure to meet you. And definitely, I've been instructed by Mayor Eric Adams to be sure that we walk through all the council districts and to be sure that we work with you and the Borough President. The Borough President only talk about the money, but he had the right to ask because he been putting the money too.
No, he's right. When he opens up his statement, the way he opened his statement tonight, with his opening statement tonight, hey, let's get down to the nitty gritty. We do get shortchanged over here. And there's a song that goes like that. Let's get down to the real nitty gritty. Now I'm showing my age, but let's do it. And let's work together and let's see what we come up with. Okay.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you,
Borough
Thank you,
President.
sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ydanis. Queens get the
Thank you.
money is our phrase. All right.
Boy.
All right. Deputy Borough President on. She
Thank you,
agrees
Borough
with that.
President.
All righty. Thank you. All right. Let's move on. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Director of the New York City Department of City Planning and the Chair of City Planning, Commissioner Dan Garodnick. Chair Garodnick also previously served in the City Council for 12 years, representing the east side of Manhattan. And my first zoning application as zoning chairman was rezoning East Midtown with him. And I learned such a great deal from Chairman Garodnick on how to bring money back to my district at the time. But, those lessons have now taught me how to bring money back to the entire borough. So I'm grateful for your leadership back then. And now, you got big shoes to fill because I know what you're capable of. And during his time in the council, Dan chaired the city's planning and economic development committee and served as a member of the land use committee. Tonight, we're excited to hear from Chair Garodnick as he shares some information on his background in city planning and some goals and aspirations that the department has on its radar. And I just want to congratulate you and welcome a good friend, someone who studies his craft. Is not a fly-by-night person, I can tell you, and someone I've enjoyed working with over the course of the last 12 years. One of the most effective council members that I had the pleasure of serving with, chair now of city planning, Dan Garodnick.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks to you for having me tonight. You also know I'm a longtime friend of the Borough President. And I know Queens gets the money. That's the deal. It's we understand the rules. We love him. We think he's the best. You all know how lucky you are to have him as the borough president. By way of introduction, and I will be pretty brief tonight, but I was honored to be the chair of the City Planning Commission and director of the Department of City Planning by Mayor Adams on February 7th. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. Most recently, I was the CEO of a not-for-profit organization to support 6 miles of public parkland and to advocate for park improvements citywide. And before that, as you heard from the borough president, I served for 12 years representing the east side of Manhattan in the city council. And I was really eager to come to pay you all a visit tonight, the borough board, because, well, I've spent a lot of time at borough board meetings, and I know how important your work is for cross-borough strategy and implementation. I know how hard you all work. I know that community board work is hard, time-consuming. I give you all a lot of credit for everything that you're doing for the city, and I want to say thank you. And I also want you to know that the Department of City Planning is eager to be a partner to you all. We want to be collaborative, forward-looking. We want to be clear in our approach. In every communication that we make, from my commentary as the chair at the city planning hearings to every planner that works for our department, we are working to use accessible and plain language, explain why we are doing what we're doing. You all know, because you've interacted with this agency long before I was around, we're doing a lot of varied work, from population and demographics to economic trends, regional planning, urban design, and of course, zoning and ULURP. And we're taking steps to help New Yorkers to understand the importance of all of this work and to connect it to the bigger picture. So we really appreciate the partnership that we have with community boards and with council members. And I want you to know that on the various applications that come before us, we're going to take the views of the community boards seriously. So if you send us recommendations that are viable and well considered, we are going to be sure to amplify them in the process here. And of course, we work side by side with the city council. There's nothing that we can do here. Well, a few things that we can do here without the city council. So we understand that they're our partners. The borough presidents, of course, we've got a great relationship with the Queens Borough president. He's one of the absolute most constructive people in city government. We're really excited to have this partnership. We're also working to bring a new approach to capital investments in the city. City planning, as you know, does not control the capital budget, but we are looking to try to encourage capital investment with good planning principles. What do I mean by that? Too often our city agencies have been working in silos. You have, the Parks Department needs this, DEP needs that, DOT needs the other thing. By the way, I should have shouted out my colleague, Ydanis Rodriguez. I really, another great guy who I worked with in the city council is doing amazing work at DOT. But everybody is working in silos. And we want to try to break that up a little bit. And the mayor wants to break that up a little bit because we want to make investments that go across agencies that have catalytic impact for the city. So when you looked at his blueprint for economic recovery, you might have seen his seed fund. And this is a fund that is designed to find areas that have had historic disinvestment, but also opportunities for jobs, housing, growth, places where we can make real investments, partner with communities for even bigger opportunities where we can make real change and not just invest where there's a rezoning present. Okay, we want to think about how we can make good, smart capital investments in a way that makes sense, crosses over agencies, and which spurs opportunity with or without any rezoning in the mix. So that is an important development in this administration. I also want to note that earlier today, we at City Planning, in partnership with HPD, we launched our Equitable Development Data Explorer. This is a tool that will help bring transparency to conversations about affordability and gentrification and displacement. We're also looking to change the zoning resolution citywide to promote economic development and just not stymie it. As you all know, because you're experts in the zoning resolution, you know that there's a lot of things in there that were written pre-1961 for a world that existed pre-1961, which make a little less sense today. And we think that there are smart fixes that we can make to the zoning to make it work better for all New Yorkers. We want to come back to you to start that conversation really soon. And some of the examples, actually, some of the best examples here are in promoting sustainability and our zero carbon goals. The zoning resolution didn't really contemplate solar panels or battery storage, or you'll find gas stations in the zoning resolution. You won't find electric car charging. So we're looking to take a look at ways that we can help to give people flexibility, certainly not to stymie opportunity, not to stymie flexibility when businesses need to grow or evolve, or buildings need to change to be able to meet an uncertain moment. So we are trying to take a hard look at some of those questions. On the subject of resiliency, obviously Queens has plenty of issues on this point. We're right now, we just had a hearing on the Resilient Edgemere rezoning plan. I want to thank the borough president for all of his work on that. We just released a comprehensive waterfront plan at the end of next year, which is a vision for the next 10 years of the city's waterfront, including climate justice, job creation, and how it all works together. We just put out our zoning for coastal flood resiliency last year, which was passed by the city council, to find ways to make it easier for homeowners, business owners, and others to design resilient businesses, build resilient buildings, so that if there's problems, if there's flooding and we're not going to have as much damage, there'll be quicker repairs, lower flood insurance costs. So there's a lot more to come on that. So again, we really want to be supportive of you and the borough board, the community boards. Our Queens office of city planning is planning to be in touch with each community board to hear more about your priorities, think about how we can work together. We're really eager to have that productive relationship. It's how I operate. I want to be accessible. I want you to feel like this agency is a collaborative one, understands your concerns, and is willing to hear a competing point of view. And we're really eager to get this conversation started. So I wanted to come tonight to say hello to you all and just let you know I'm really looking forward to working with you. So thanks, Donovan. I appreciate the moment.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Chair Garodnick. And just quick question. So one of the things we often get questions on is how we're doing cohesive planning. And, oftentimes, as much as, and I know we've done a charter revision to give community boards a little bit more time to digest, especially some of the bigger initiatives that city planning comes down with. But how can we work more cohesively through pre-ULURP, right? And I think one of the things we did in Far Rockaway, as much as people still don't like density and larger buildings, is one thing we got right, I think, is the community planning portion of this project. Of course, Dolores, and I'm sure CB14 will say, well, they still did what they wanted to do, but the bottom line is that we did strategically think through ways to make sure we can develop more commercial. The plan is imperfect because there's no such thing as a 100% perfect plan. But how can we work more cohesively with city planning through the pre-ULURP before applications are filed to really do some real community planning, which I think even if communities don't want to digest as Queens grows, gives more of a say so. And I'm very happy to hear you tie in work with other agencies, because often in my prior experience before I was borough president, we would be screaming about school seat, for instance, knowing what was coming, screaming about the need for more healthcare expansions in the Rockaways. And this is just me prior to being VP. And I felt like I was running into a wall many times because, the agencies weren't all in line, although I did everything I could. And, we walked away with a $300 million package nearly, but there was more work to be done. So how can we, especially on city-owned land, work more cohesively prior to city planning coming out with a plan to make sure communities really, that the planning process is really inclusive of communities? So if you can.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question. I think it's a really big question. And, you've heard the mayor talk about how he doesn't want agencies to be working in silos. He wants us to have across, collaboration here. So we are very eager to play a role in that. And we know that it's a priority for the administration. As for your point about engaging communities, when it comes to, and this is an important, difference that I just want to point out and I know you all know this already, which is the difference between the private applications and the public applications here. You're talking about the public applications, Mr. President, and you're totally right. When there's something that's being initiated by the city in an effort to do something big and important, There has to be a recognition that we walk this process together, the borough president, the community boards, the council, and they're hard and they're complicated and they're frequently controversial. And that means that we need to engage. We need to engage at the community board level. We also need to engage beyond the community board. We need to catch the people who wouldn't ever set foot in a community board meeting because they don't know what a community board is. And so we have to do better to have that conversation more broadly. And I certainly see that. The borough president, I know you see that, and it's important. I think it's a really important point. So yes, it is front and center for our effort to engage more broadly on public applications. But also, we're going to be looking to you all to help us think through the areas, certainly as it relates to those big capital investments that are going to have bigger catalytic opportunities, and also for bigger projects, bigger opportunities. Since we're walking this together, we want to hear from you. The areas where people see opportunities, where you think that we should be making change, we want to hear from you. On the private applications, it's a little more complicated. And it's a little more complicated because when a private applicant comes to the Department of City Planning and says, hey, I'd like to do A, B, or C, and I've got the following environmental work, and I've done this and I've done that, the department has a certain set of rules that it needs to follow to make sure that they are checking all of the boxes necessary to allow their application to proceed into certification. Before it's certified by the department, there really would be no basis for the Department of City Planning to come talk to a community board, for us to do anything publicly, because we haven't either blessed it, endorsed it, really even considered it at all. So it becomes a little more complicated there. But in those contexts, and by the way, those are 90% of them, we're encouraging the private applicants to come and talk to you earlier. We don't want surprises. We don't want challenges here. We want this to be a smooth sail, and we know it's very rarely a smooth sail. So we want to actually get people to engage with boards early, engage with communities early, to make this as easy as possible, certainly to eliminate process-based objections that, oh, I didn't hear from them, I don't know what they're up to, I don't trust them because they never came to talk to us. We don't want that. We want people to get out there, engage with communities and community boards early. And even if they're not even, officially in the process, we want to encourage them to go and do some of that legwork early. It's going to make their lives easier and all of our lives easier down the line.
Thank you, Chair. I want to get the questions. Any questions? Oh, please tell me y'all got questions, but don't be running to us if y'all got questions later. No questions for city planning? Really?
Listen, it's not your only opportunity either. I just want you to know that, right? So I appreciate that. But okay, look, you have a victim. I'm the victim.
I was about to say, because they all come to me. So you here now. The man of the hour is here. And don't be coming to us when you got the man of the hour. All right, Heather.
Really simple question. I love the tools that New York City Planning has. I have found them wonderful. They teach me a lot. They're really helpful when we're preparing for the ULERT processes. But I'm wondering, with the community district profiles, we're in April. And every time you go to the site, you're looking at old data. And it says that the community district profiles will be updated in 2022 to include the latest decennial census and American Community Survey results. I'm wondering if you happen to have any idea, I know this is kind of minutia, if you have any idea as to when we should expect to see that information updated, since we're at April, since a lot of that data has been used to drive a lot of other decisions throughout the state. Just kind of wondering when we'll get that update, because that's invaluable to us.
Heather, it's a great question. I got to come back to you. I'm sorry that I don't have it at my fingertips, but I will. And I can either, we can either relate to you or relate to the borough president and have him pass it on. But we will follow up with you and get you an answer to that question.
Great. Thank you. I know it was a bit in the weeds there.
No, listen, there was a fighting chance that I might have known it. So I'm glad you asked, but I do need to come back to you. I'm sorry.
I appreciate Dan's no BS answer. And the truth is those profiles help us to shape policy for our district. So I'm really appreciative of that question, Heather. And I agree with you. We need to make sure it's updated, especially after the last census count. So thank you. All right, Jean, followed by Frank, and then Dolores. Jean.
Mr. Director, thank you, Mr. Borough President. Congratulations, Director. I just want to say thank you. The Queens office just did a two-day presentation for the board members and staff, and it really was great. The actual work that went into the links and stuff to give us so that we just don't lose it after the thing was excellent. I have to say thank you very much. I understand, Borough President, you're going to be doing it when the new people are coming in, they'll get the training, and it is very important and very appropriate. I just want to thank you. And I have to tell you, Kate Young has been, she was a clone under John Young, and she has been fantastic for our board and for Queens, and has always kept us in the loop and always was the sounding board when we were in trouble to help us out. So you got a great team there. The Queens team is excellent. And Mr. President, thank you to include them in that training session. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming from Gene, Dan, I don't think you recognize how important that is because he is no BS. So that is a big endorsement to have Gene on here saying you did something right. And we are also, just so you know, Mr. Chairman, really working on making sure we're doing more trainings in this area because ULIP is very complicated. When I became chair of zoning, I don't want to tell you the amount of wine I drank to get through the zoning handbook, but it certainly helped me to get through it and burn the midnight oil because it is very complicated. But I somewhat became a master of my craft because of burning the midnight oil and a few glasses of wine. So we're going to be doing a lot of trainings in this area, especially because we have a new class of council members, community boards coming in, but also council members. And it's really important for everybody to know we're not making this stuff up. So thank you, Gene, for that. That meant a lot. That means your office is off to the right foot. Frank and then Dolores.
I just have to say one thing about that zoning handbook. I've got some advice for everybody on the zoning handbook. Alcohol, for sure. I can see that's a good suggestion from you. But also, I would say 2 pages at a time. You don't want to go you want to it's like somebody said when I started law school, they're like, Dan, here, I've got advice for you. When you're in first year law school, don't turn the page unless you actually understand what it says. So I took that advice. It's actually pretty good. It just means pace yourself on the zoning handbook, 2 pages at a time. That's my advice to you. And then maybe you follow the borough president's guidance and open a bottle of something. That could help.
What is it? Drinks to go now or whatever the governor did. Okay. With the handbook. All right. Frank.
All right. First of all, thank you very much again for this forum and thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
The thing is, I'm the community board chair of CB3. We cover East Elmhurst, we cover North Corona, and we cover Jackson Heights. We've had 8 to 10 hospitals close in Queens in the last 15 years. Over here, we have Elmhurst Hospital, who are doing the best job they can do. I mean, they're overrun, but they service about 300,000 people, which gives 1 bed for every 10,000 residents. We need a hospital, another location for a hospital, maybe 20 blocks away, that can cover some of this overflow, because this is ridiculous over here. If you get sick, I got sick in 20, I had COVID. My son took me to LIJ. The horror show, and it's not their fault. I mean, if you try to give out 15 shots a day and 15,000 shots a day, that's ridiculous. We need a hospital. The second part of this is Malcolm X Promenade. It's horrendous. I mean, we've been held up by this airport, Port Authority, and everybody knows my thing on Port Authority. They lie a lot, and we've taken them to court and sued them, and the air train and everything else. But the promenade is city property. Over here in East Elmhurst, we pay some of the highest property taxes in the city. We're paying 0.9. The rest of the city is paying 0.3 and 0.4. That was in Scott Stringer's report before he left office. Councilman Danny Drum had an entire council that was supposed to get together and do some sort of equity with the homeowners over here because the taxes are way out of line.
That's not him, but I want you to get to your question.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm done. Go ahead. He gets it.
I do get it. I get it. And look, I think you're talking about the big picture. You're talking about points of equity as it relates to taxes, as it relates to access to healthcare. And these are really important principles to us. And we're going to be, as we do our planning for the city, obviously we want to think about, everything through an equity lens. And that's what you can expect from us. The big picture question about hospital, that's a complicated one, which requires private investment. It requires space to happen. It requires the reason why, hospitals close as opposed to expand relates to even bigger trends related to reimbursement rates and insurance and all sorts of things that are well beyond the Department of City Planning. But you are correct to point out that there is a need, and we certainly are eager to work with you to see how we can help, whether it's hospital or other healthcare facilities or other ways to make this point and to ensure that we have success. We're ready to have that conversation. We're ready to help, and we're open to how best to do that. So we should continue this conversation for sure.
Yeah, and let me just add to that, Frank. I met with the governor last month, and there's some things cooking on that end, but this is going to take a state, city, federal, because we can have all the rhetoric we want around this subject, but it takes dollars to really make it make sense. And so stay tuned on that. Because we have plans on that. All right, Dolores, I want to go to you and then Maury, and then we're closing out.
1 second. Thank you very much, Borough President. And I'd like to see this done on your watch.
Who you telling?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, Dolores and Maury.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner. I also attended the training that City Planning gave last week. Even though I'm on the board 25 years or so, I always try and attend whatever training there is because things change all the time and it clarifies things for us when we confuse it in our minds. In terms of rezoning, I have a suggestion, and I did mention it at the training last week. There are many municipalities across the country that require the applicant, in the case of rezoning, to post on their property a notice that this property, there is an application for rezoning. And then I just passed one in Nassau County as I'm driving, that there was a big yellow sign that said the public hearing on the rezoning is on this date at that time. There are so many people, even though they're all on internet, there are so many that are disconnected from the government things in the city. So if those signs were visible to the community, they would know what was going on and they would know to ask. And I think the city needs to consider implementing that. So I'll be happy to send you the picture I just took in 5 towns in Nassau County, and I'll send you the one I have from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I think it would make a tremendous difference to the citizens of the city. Thank you.
That's a really interesting suggestion. Thank you. Please do send that on. And I know that I stop and take a look when I see that there's a project and it has, a rendering, or it's got a name, it's got a this, and I think it's very useful. When I was running the Park Conservancy, I also thought it was important when we did construction projects out there to explain to people what was happening, why it was happening, and so this is a really interesting point. So please do send that along.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good
By the way, Donovan, I'm sorry, Mr. President, can I pose a question? This is just a question to the group, and the next person coming up, maybe Maury, maybe he can take a crack at it, but also I'm interested in, from your perspective, whether you think that more from city planning by way of trainings across community boards, whether we should be doing more of that sort of thing. I appreciate the praise for the City Planning Queens office on the recent presentation. But I'm also interested in hearing whether you think we can or should be doing more of that more broadly. Zoom, Teams, et cetera, opens up the opportunity to do a lot more of that across boards and things. So I just pose that as a question. But anyway, I'm sorry, Mr. President. Go ahead. Okay.
Maury, please hop in.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I want to say congratulations on the appointment. Thank you for being here and being accessible. To the borough president, thank you for bringing him here. I want to echo the words about the Queens team. Amazing. We are so grateful for Teal, who's coming to our meetings all the time and really accessible to us, during the meetings and also afterwards. I also want to bring up, because she's been great about promoting the Good Urban Design website. And as someone who's a professor of design and technology, it was very exciting for me to see city planning making the effort to educate not just us, but the public. And I think that is so important to help people access, have part of the city and city planning accessible to them so they understand it. I love the trainings, to answer your question. I was actually going to mention that. I think it's great. It's very helpful. And I think, I would love to see it expanded, like the website, the design website, so that even the general public, if they're interested, because I think there are people, and that might engage people in the public to get involved in their community board, to get involved in other things, which then brings me to the Dolores's point about, same thing came up a while back ago to me, that there are a lot of municipalities around the country and in Canada that do this exact thing where they publicize and make it accessible. There's a lot of people, even if they do have access to the internet and they could go to the community board to find out, or the community board's website or other areas, when you walk by a place, like you said, you pay attention, you notice it. But a lot of people, it's disconnected when the public hearing is not in that physical space. So if you see that thing that says, hey, there's going to be a public hearing on this date, whether there's a QR code that you can scan or take a picture of the date and the time, I think it's really important for even more engagement. The last thing I'll mention is, and this may be more of a legislative thing, but we've had a lot of folks in the past year or so bring up the issue of how there's this rule that you have to have X number of parking spots when a new building goes up. And that's obviously can be controversial, but it's also important. And some people see it as a negative, but some people see, it's if you have to have parking inside, then you're not taking it away from the street. But the other aspect of it is, can we mandate EVs for these? Like if we're saying you have to have 30 parking spots, X percent, can we mandate there's got to be X percent of EV chargers in those buildings?
I mean, the short answer is the city council could do it if it wished. And I think it's a really interesting point. I mean, the city have done certain things that relate to bicycles. When you think about the future, what you're saying is a fair observation. I mean, I had a meeting recently where somebody made the point that there are fleets of, Verizon or Con Edison or whoever, even the city's own fleets, which if there were an easy place for them to go in and charge overnight, like they would do it. It just doesn't exist. So your point about being forward looking and saying, well, what will the buildings of the future need, I think is a really good one. And it is, I think it's a conversation we should have. I think it's a forward looking point, and I appreciate that. And by the way, on the subject of the engagement and urban design and all the rest, I do think that there's an important role for city planning to play as a civic leader in talking about these issues. I know, and I see in the chat the comment from Heather about how, these concepts, they're hard, they're complicated. And I think frequently people glaze over a little bit when you start talking about C64 R8 with a C64 overlay. Everybody starts saying, well, I just have stopped listening. So I think that we have a real important role to play in making all of this much more accessible, driving people to better understanding of their city environment. I think it helps community boards and the borough president as well, and the council members too, when people are better engaged, better informed about these things, and not just taking a sliver of understanding and sort of amplifying it. So I certainly intend to make that a priority. You've probably even seen, if you follow the Department of City Planning on social media at all, you've probably seen a little bit of a flavor of that change already. We're trying to push this out, trying to engage in a positive and more compelling way. So more to come on that.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you for that, Dan. And I think you made some really good points, Maury. On the EV stuff, like I said, I had some bills on that which would have mandated a certain amount of set-asides for specific buildings. So if you're a council member on this line or a staffer, I would certainly put in that LS request because it's coming, it's inevitable. Biden administration is about to shift things. So, the further ahead we're along, the more, we'll be ahead, especially from a climate change perspective. All righty. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? All right, seeing none, I want to thank the Queens Borough President staff. I want to thank our Deputy Borough President, Ebony Young, to all of the staff members, Khalil, Bragg, to Maricela. Thank you all for putting this together. Tiffany and Chris and everybody else, whoever I forgot, I apologize in advance, but thank you all for attending today's Borough Board meeting. I want to thank both Commissioner Rodriguez and Director Garodnick for today's insightful hearing. We look forward to working with you in the long term. This is really in short term and long term, but this is really just about ensuring that we're just not building back normal, but that we're reconnecting and building this borough back better as we move into the future. And we look forward to doing that with you in a real way. And that means real community input, real investment, and that can only happen through a collective effort. So thank you all for attending. Thank you to our chairs. Once again, our council members. We'll see you next month. See you at tomorrow's Borough Cabinet meeting for our district managers. But thank you all for attending. God bless. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.